Hey, I'm Dr. Cole. Thank you for joining me for this training on parasites today. I think you're going to find this training very valuable as it's had a big impact on my health and for a lot of the clients that I work with inside of my coaching program. So we're going to dive in here. I'm going to try and keep this concise. We're going to go over a lot of awesome information today. Please stick around to the end. I have a great resource for you to not just learn about the impact of parasites, but to have the exact tools and strategies and protocols that I use for my private coaching clients. So we're going to dive in here. Let me make sure we are recording. Awesome. And let's pull up my slide deck. All right. Let me get this presentation up here. Cool. All right. Actually, one last thing. Let me hide my controls. Okay, so we're going to talk about parasites, and this topic is excellent for anyone that has any underlying chronic. We're going to talk about the underlying cause for chronic disease that most people don't consider and most doctors don't look for. It's going to be an excellent conversation for anyone who already feels like you're eating healthy, you're taking supplements, you feel like you're trying a lot of good things, but you don't feel like you're breaking through. You're not really feeling the impact that you expect for the results, for the effort that you're putting in. So if you still don't feel well after making all those changes, keep watching because I created this talk for you. Now, if you're new to me and my channel, this is me on the left. I'm Dr. Zachary Cole again, by the way. In 2019 and into 2020, I was very sick. I lost my health. I developed a lot of very severe digestive issues. I lost a ton of weight. I had a lot of, beyond the digestive issues, other things that began to spring up out of that. So like lupus, spectrum, joint pain conditions, arthritis, a lot of skin rashes, low energy, brain fog, malabsorption, loose stools. I had lost my health for the better part of a year. Now, the good news of the story is that what we're going to be discussing today had a massive impact on my health and helping me to regain my digestive function. As you can see on the right, which I might be blocking this with my screen here, this is March 2021, 1 year later, where I put on 40 pounds of muscle and a good solid weight again. I absorbed my food. My autoimmune issues, the lupus-like joint spectrum, lupus spectrum joint issues went away, no more rashes. I absorbed my food better again, and so all those problems got better. To be sure, this conversation is much deeper than parasites. There was a lot I did dietary-wise, cleansing-wise. There's a lot that goes into health beyond just going after pathogens, but what we'll be discussing in today's talk had a massive impact in my health. So if you would like to learn more about my story and some of the things that we do to help people who have digestive and autoimmune issues, please go to girevive.com. It will be a different conversation than we're having today. Today we're just going to only focus on one aspect of that journey, parasites. But if you would like to see my full teaching on that, please go to girevive.com. If you're looking to work with someone who can guide you through this process, I do have an option where you can book a consultation there to have a deeper conversation about your health journey and what you're dealing with right now. All right, so let's dive into today's talk. When we think about the topic of parasites, most of us, if you're watching this, you likely live in the Western culture. In America, like I do, we don't really consider these things. It's kind of a viewpoint where we've transcended past parasites. We're too hygienic, we're too cleanly, we're too, just too advanced for these things to be an issue. Dr. Cole, aren't these really just a problem with third world countries? If you think about parasites, you likely think about poor countries like Haiti, other places in South America, India, where you might even picture the little kid with a swollen belly by a dirty river, and those are the people that have the parasite problems. That's why we send so many medications to countries like that. Well, you're right. Those countries do have outward effects of some of the worst types of parasites, but you're going to learn today that this is very much a thing that has affected all cultures, all societies, all economic statuses, and it doesn't matter whether you live in one of the third world countries or somewhere wealthy like a Western country like America. Parasites have always been and continue to be a problem. And it's one of the things that most doctors don't consider, patients don't get testing for. The tests are very difficult to locate these things in the first place. And so what I'm going to recommend to you is go back and do what your grandparents' generation did. So they didn't have to have tests to identify these things. They didn't have to, find evidence of them in their blood work or their stool test. Grandma's generation, or maybe even the generation before her, they just went through regular, twice a year, a couple times a year, deworming protocols. And think about this. We still do this with our animals today. If you have a dog or a cat, you take them to get what? You get them dewormed. If you own livestock or cattle, cows, horses, pigs, we take those things through deworming and parasite protocols. They are mammals. They pick up these things. What makes you think that we are any different? So this is very much a lost concept, maybe even intentionally so. If I can get not a little bit conspiratorial out there. But there's a reason why these things aren't addressed today. Some of it's forgotten and lost knowledge. As medicine changed in the early 1900s and pharmaceutical companies began to take over, we really lost a lot of the traditions and principles that we lived off for hundreds of years. And so if we return back to the principles of our ancestors, of your grandparents or their grandparents' generation, they took this stuff very seriously. And they would take the entire family through deworming protocols once or twice a year as kind of a maintenance. And I think that we can have a lot of success getting back to those principles today. Okay, I'm going to move my picture over here so I can see the screen better. So we're going to look at a few articles here. I want to, before we get into some of the protocols here, I want to bring your attention to how prevalent this is. How many different conditions tie back to parasites. We know about these things, but it's not talked about. And that's because the practice of medicine is about 2 decades behind the study of medicine. So we can learn things, we understand the connections, but the practice of this in actual medicine is far lagging behind. So this is just from last week. I'm recording this is August 4th, 2023. This is from July 28th, literally last week in CNN. A worm has been revived after being frozen for 46,000 years in Siberian permafrost. So this is talking about microscopic parasite worms. These things are apex pathogens, you guys. They are hard to kill. They are extremely resilient. Anything that can survive being frozen for 46,000 years and come back to life again is something that has been designed to thrive in all conditions. And when they get inside of our body, they can wreak a lot of havoc. This is not a new topic. Just 5 years ago, in the Siberian times, same thing. Worms that have been frozen in the permafrost for 42,000 years come back to life again and start eating. Fox News 2019, a boy 4 years old has dozens of worms removed from his intestines after complaining of pain and vomiting. So if you can see this down here, there's a picture. It looks like a bowl of spaghetti. All these parasites removed from his intestines that were blocking him up and driving abdominal pain. Washington Post, 2018, after being bitten by a mosquito, a woman in Russia develops moving blemishes on her face that turns out to be a parasitic worm. So she got bit by a mosquito, then her lip swells up, she gets blemishes on her face, eyebrow starts having little swollen areas that move, and it was literally a parasite from a mosquito. We'll talk about insects are very big vectors for parasites. Today.com, woman's grapefruit-sized liver cancer tumor was actually a parasite. So in the coming slides, we're going to see there are so many, our imaging is not sensitive enough to tell what a tumor is made up of. And so oftentimes we can think it's malignant, it's cancerous. This woman goes in for treatment. She's told she has a grapefruit-sized tumor on her liver. They go in to do the operation. They find out actually it's not cancer at all. It's a parasite mimicking a tumor in her liver. Parasite lumps mimic breast cancer. So not just liver, but now we're talking about breast cancer. How prevalent is this today? It says parasitic invasion by a nematode worm could be mistaken for cancer in women presenting with breast cancer lumps. Researchers claim after diagnosing calcified filariasis in a woman with bilateral breast lumps. So it goes on to say that because patients with these parasites present with lumps in the breasts, these findings are cause for concern because they're often clinically suspected to be malignant. This is from the Institute of Diagnostic Radiology in Zurich, Switzerland. The 23-year-old patient had emigrated from Cameroon 2 years before. She presented with bilateral breast lumps. While her history was unremarkable, physical examination confirmed the presence of several non-painful, mobile, firm lumps in the breast without lymph node involvement in her underarms. So, how many women go in for these treatments? They find a lump, they go and see their doctor. Treatments are started right away. Very toxic treatments for the body, radiation, chemotherapy. And if you wouldn't go in and do a biopsy of these things, then you're not going to be able to differentiate, is it truly a cancerous nodule, or is it something that's more benign or still very serious that needs to be eliminated, but is it ultimately a parasite? Same thing, Discover magazine, is it breast cancer or tapeworm larvae? Biopsy done on a 54-year-old woman with breast cancer turns out to be the larva of a pork tapeworm. Today, 2019, now we're going into the brain. A brain tumor turns out to be a parasite growing in a woman's head. So again, we're going to see that not just do parasites mimic tumors in cancer in humans, they can actually drive those changes in our bodies as well. This is from not any fringe website. It's literally the American Cancer Society. States that parasites lead to cancer in humans. So it says certain parasitic worms can live inside of the human body and raise our risk of developing some types of cancer. The one in subject in this article says liver flukes, which it goes on to say are not very common in America. They're just in Eastern Asian countries. Believe me, they are not. Myself, a lot of patients that I work with, past liver flukes, they're very common because of the way our food industry works today. Before, maybe parasites would be very geographically located to individual areas, but now we grow food and import it from so many countries that prior infestations that would be just very localized to certain areas have become worldwide. So as the industry has expanded to such a worldwide economy, so have the prevalence of pathogens. So liver flukes are literally linked to bile duct cancer. A lot of people who I work with that have been told they have gallstones, they have a high HIDA scan where their gallbladder is sluggish. A lot of the times it's because of the prevalence of liver flukes congesting the bile ducts and driving literal cancerous changes in the liver. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, let me move my screen over here again so I can read this. Scientists at the CDC have discovered that cancer cells originating in a common tapeworm may take root in people with weakened immune systems, causing cancer-like tumors. You guys, again, this is from the New England Journal of Medicine. It says it's the first known case of a person becoming ill from cancer cells that arose in a parasite. What does this mean? It means that if you have parasites, they can make changes in your body that lead to cancerous changes endogenously, meaning in your own body, creates cancerous changes. But let's take this further. This person had a parasite where the parasite got cancer. The parasite itself formed cancerous cells, and then those cells migrated from the parasite and created cancerous changes inside of the person. So if that's not reason enough to get these things out of your body, I don't know what is. Parasite infection, carcinogenesis, and human malignancy. So it says cancer may be induced by environmental and physiological conditions, including infections with viruses, bacteria, and parasites, which have been recognized for years to be associated with human carcinogenicity. I don't know about you. I was never taught this in medical school. Apparently the studies are there. This is a peer-reviewed medical journal. But what they're literally now finding is that if you have infections from bacteria, parasites, or viruses, these things can create cancerous, meaning carcinogenic changes in your body. The associations between infections with parasites and human cancers are well evidenced. This is not a fringe topic. It's just something that, again, the practice of medicine is 20 years behind the studies of it. We have tons of evidence that prove if you have parasites, it can lead to cancerous changes in your body. And sometimes, as we saw, mimic cancer in your body, but it's not very prevalent as far as being taught in medicine or being told to patients. So You can read these studies on your own. A few more here. 20-year-old man with symptoms of gallbladder pain turns out to be liver flukes. We talked about that. Liver flukes are extremely common today. And then the last one here, which I find so profound, Lyme disease parasite connection. So it says Lyme bacteria hides inside of parasitic worms, causing chronic brain diseases. You guys, what we're finding is that if you want to go after pathogens, parasites have to be at the top of your list. The reason is because the parasites don't just cause problems in your body. They are harborers for other things that make you toxic, inflame your body, and infect us. So parasites can get bacterial infections. Parasites can acquire viruses. Parasites can be harborers for heavy metals and other toxins that then leach through the parasites back into our system. And maybe, thinking some of this through, maybe this is why Lyme becomes so recurrent in so many people. So think about this. A person gets Lyme disease, which, by the way, Dr. Burgdorferi, the doctor who diagnosed the bacteria Borrelia burgdorferi that makes us sick from Lyme, do you know that he was originally studying parasite infections of ticks, not the bacteria? But let's talk about this for a minute. You get that Borrelia burgdorferi bacteria, you take an antibiotic like doxycycline, it kills the bacteria in your blood, but it's not going to kill the parasites. The parasites have that same infected bacteria inside of them. Once the antibiotic stops, the coast is clear, the bacteria re-emerge from the parasites, reinfecting the host, and this becomes chronic. And multiple rounds of antibiotics aren't going to fix this until we go enough upstream and begin removing the true top of the pathogen pyramid, which is the parasites. All right, so we see three big problems with this topic. Number one, there's a lack of public education regarding parasites. Number two, doctors don't test for them and rarely consider them. And as we're going to learn, even the best stool tests are very poor at detecting the presence of parasites. I tell my patients, we run a test in my clinic. I run a virtual health coaching clinic. I order testing for patients. And one of the tests that I do, because a lot of my cases are gut-based, is called a GI map test. But I caution all my clients, please do not put any emphasis on the parasite section of that test. Most of the people come back negative for it. The reason being is that because parasites are very difficult to test for. They don't want to leave your body. They're not going to be very readily eliminated in a stool sample, and they can be in many other organs beyond the gut in the first place. So we'll take patients who have this test. It shows negative. They believe they have no parasites. We take them through the protocols you and I will be discussing today, and they start getting rid of all these worms and flukes and biofilms and plaques, all the stuff that is better out of your body than in. So here's truly the best parasite test. Let me end my screen share here and make myself bigger so you can see this. You can do this yourself. It's free. The best parasite test is take 2 fingers. I want you to find your carotid pulse in your neck here. And if you feel a pulse there, it means you have parasites. So, I'm joking around here, but honestly, it means that everybody has parasites. If you're a mammal, you have parasites. I hope everybody watching this talk falls into that category there. All right, let me get this pulled back up again. And hide my controls. Cool. So, what did we just find out from that test? You have parasites. Everybody does to some degree. How can we start getting them down to a manageable level? So all living creatures have them. They're part of life. They're similar to bacteria. They're designed to degrade and feed on diseased tissue. So a strong immune system will keep them at bay. You don't have to worry about these things. Don't live in fear about them. You'll never fully eliminate them. As we're going to see, so many aspects of our common everyday life expose us to parasites. It's about doing the due diligence, the protocols like our ancestors did, and maybe even a little bit more aggressive at first because most people have never done this in their lives. It's about reducing them down to a manageable level. So parasites degrade sick tissue. If you have a body that's sick, you're going to attract more parasites to that body to degrade diseased and toxic tissue. The analogy is this. If you lived in a city, and this has happened in places like New York and Chicago, and the waste management workers go on strike, well, the people still have to put their garbage somewhere. So they take it out to the curb, they let it pile up, it sits there, And that garbage on the curb is going to attract maggots and flies and mice and rats and maybe raccoons. All these vermin that are disease carriers that are attracted to the garbage. Well, if our body has these conditions that open the door to parasites, like maybe you're chronically stressed, and so that's going to lower your immunity. You live in chronic fight or flight mode and you have a lot of anxiety and you're just running on stress hormones all the time. That's going to lower down your natural defenses. Or so many of the toxins we're exposed to today in our everyday life, particularly a lot of the toxins in our food supply. So if you eat a modern diet full of inflammatory processed foods, if you don't sleep well, again, it lowers down your natural defenses. If you have other co-infections, if your body is weakened, toxic, and sick and full of garbage, that's going to naturally attract the parasites, and they're going to love that environment, so they're going to be more prevalent versus somebody that eats a great diet, takes care of themselves, has good sleep, doesn't have stress, and they're going to be able to minimize the effects and the exposure to parasites, especially going after the protocols that we're going to cover here today. So who is at the most risk for parasites? This is not an all-encompassing list, but it's pretty comprehensive for some of the biggest triggers. So anyone that eats sushi, pork, or shellfish, I will put sushi very much at the top of that list. If you eat raw fish, I just had a patient yesterday that I was speaking to. He's 1 month into our program. He's doing the protocols we'll be discussing here today. And on our first call, I kind of do a deep dive into a patient's diet, lifestyle, and I came to find out he's a big sushi eater, eats it once a week. And so I said, you're likely going to get rid of a lot of parasites and feel a lot better as we go through this program. And he, in our first month follow-up, said he's been doing the protocols and he got rid of a 3-foot long, probably tapeworm. He didn't take a picture. Some patients do and send me those things and it helps with identifying them. But a 3-foot long something came out of him, difficult to pass. But after doing these protocols for a month, way less inflammation, losing weight, stomach feels way flatter, his face is not as puffy. And so these things, they drive a lot of inflammation. The vectors for them are unclean foods. And I believe in following a biblical type diet. When the Bible says pork and like shellfish are unclean, that's because these are the biggest vectors for potential pathogens. Parasites love pork. They love shrimp, crab, lobster. If you eat raw fish like sushi, you're going to be at a massive exposure risk for parasites. Now, we don't have to cut everything off this list. I own a pet, our little Boston Terrier, cute little dog Olivia. She sleeps in our bed with us. So, our pets we love them, but in the old days, people would keep their pets outside. Now, whether we think that's wrong or right, it did minimize their exposure. Pets although we love them, they can be disgusting at times, right? Your pet will go outside and eat, feces, crap from other animals. They lick their own butt, then they kiss you. And these parasites leave their anuses in your bed, crawl into us in the middle of the night, and they infect our bodies. As gross as that sounds, that's the mode of transmission I mean. If you drink unfiltered water, if you eat at restaurants, again, not to bum you out because I love eating at restaurants, but I forget which university did the study. They took all these different restaurants, they analyzed the fingernails of all the food preparation workers there, and 100% of workers had contamination of fecal matter under their fingernails. So gross stuff, you guys. Again, don't want to discourage you from eating out, but this is more evidence for why you don't know who's cooking your food. You don't know where that food came from. We have to be doing appropriate protocols to minimize our exposure and to kill these things once we've been exposed to them. If you go to a lot of public places, particularly daycare centers are massive transmission modes. Wherever people congregate, particularly water parks, amusement parks. If you walk outside barefoot, now I believe in grounding. Again, I'm not telling you to not do these things. This is just, we have to be aware of how we get exposed to them so that we can take the appropriate protocols. I live in a place where our neighbors, we have some property here, our neighbors have horses. The horses get loose sometimes and they come and they go to the bathroom all over our property, and then horses, cattle, they're major vectors in transmission for parasites. The parasites leave their stool, they get into our grass, we walk barefoot, and then that can be a mode of transmission. I don't step barefoot in the horse droppings, but I'm sure it gets into the soil. So if you swim in rivers, lakes, or ponds, if you travel to notorious countries, we're going to look at a patient of mine down in Mexico. If you go to Mexico, South America, India, a lot of these places are very common vectors for parasites, and it's a surprising amount of people that I work with as we dive into their origin story. Oftentimes you'll talk with someone who got sick after traveling overseas or out of the country. Insect bites, big ones, ticks and mosquitoes. I really learned about this last year when I was bit by a tick. I've been bit by ticks before, but we have a property here. There's a lot of them. And I was bit by a tick. I didn't see it. It was probably in my back for over 24 hours by the time I caught it. And about 5 days later, I started developing all the symptoms of what I always expected a tick illness would feel like. One of the worst headaches in my life, extreme stiffness and muscle aches and pain, high fever, chills, and it was miserable. I was very concerned about my future. It did not turn out to be Lyme disease. It was just as bad of a condition called anaplasmosis. And I thank God I had a friend of mine, another chiropractor friend of mine, say, Zach, take ivermectin. So today's talk is not about ivermectin, and ivermectin doesn't kill all types of parasites, but I took ivermectin, and within 24 hours, all my symptoms went away. If you want to learn more about that on this YouTube channel, I've done a video about my experience using ivermectin, and it's phenomenal for tick-borne illnesses. The reason being is that when ticks bite you, they spit parasites, not just bacteria. As we said earlier, they spit parasites into your blood, and ivermectin is phenomenal for the types of parasites that are from ticks, like Lyme disease, Babesia, anaplasmosis. Some of the other ones are escaping my memory right now, Rocky Mountain spotted fever. So if you or you know someone who has had tick-borne illnesses, ivermectin, little side note, phenomenal for that. But ticks, mosquitoes, these things transmit pathogens like parasites into our bodies. And parasites are not always as big as like that 3-foot tapeworm that I talked about with my patient. Like in my case, a parasite can be as small as a red blood cell. So, and if you eat raw plants, I hope you're not a vegan, but if you do eat raw plants, you are not safe. Raw plants are one of the biggest vectors for parasites out there. Salads, lettuce, spinach, especially if you eat these things from other countries. So I never recommend eating food imported from Mexico. You want to have everything US based. But the other thing about the raw plants is that there's snails and slugs that crawl on these things, and they are massive intermediary hosts for multiple types of parasites. All right, so here's how we avoid them. This is what we're gonna wrap up in here with. Everybody has to get inside of a plastic bubble. No, obviously I'm joking here. You don't have to worry about these things and live in fear and put yourself in a plastic bubble. I want you to live your life normally, and we're gonna show you how to be empowered to take control of these things. Symptoms. How do you know that you may have parasites? So they're difficult to test for. Some of the symptoms here are chronic fatigue, if you're always tired, if you don't sleep well. Parasites majorly interrupt our sleep patterns. We'll talk about how a full moon is one of the best opportunities we have during the month to get rid of parasites. And when I began tracking these things, and I noticed that, wow, my sleep is worst when the sky is brightest, because the moon's brightest, because our melatonin levels are lowest. Your sleep is worst, your symptoms flare. Usually these things, when you start really paying attention, you'll notice it often lines up with the full moon. Kindergarten, elementary school teachers notice this the most because their students misbehave and have the most emotional issues in the days around a full moon. So it sounds weird, but actually a lot of our ancestors were way more in tune with the heavenly luminaries, the earth, the seasons than we are today. If you have skin rashes, eczema or acne, any type of skin blemishes, big sign of parasites. If you have a lot of itching, particularly rectal, anal itching, if you have itching of your scrotal type itching, that's a big sign of parasites, particularly the anal itching. If you have chronic headaches, if you have any autoimmune diseases and parasites go like peanut butter and jelly together. If you have chronic just weakness, if you have digestive problems, I would say autoimmune and digestive problems are two of the biggest things parasites drive. If you have food cravings, like you just can't get over the cravings, you feel like you just can't get it together, it may not just be you being weak. It's likely the things living in your body craving certain foods that send out the signal so that you emotionally feel connected and crave and eat those foods. Parasites drive histamine responses in our bodies. So anyone that has allergies, you have to consider parasites as a cause for that. I am not a believer that our bodies just cannot tolerate the environment, cannot tolerate our diet anymore. I work with so many people that their diet gets shorter and shorter of the foods that they can eat every year. And when we talk about allergies, that's a type of response in your body called an IgE, as in echo response. That's a histamine immune type response. Well, parasites are the main drivers of that response. And do you know that a lot of medications like Claritin, for example, things that help to control allergies, they also help to paralyze parasites temporarily. I learned that last year. I think one of the reasons why we feel better when we take those medications is because it temporarily paralyzes the parasites. The immune activity goes down, we feel better, but then the parasites come back to life again, and we have that same driver of histamine responses, hives, allergies. So parasites are a big driver of that. If you have, like I did before, a lot of arthritis, chronic joint pain, autoimmune spectrum like joint pain, consider parasites. We saw in the studies, if you have lumps, lymph nodes, and cysts, they may be caused or they may themselves be parasites. Nerve damage, and then visual or eye problems. If you have floaters in your eye, you look in the sky, you see all these floaters in your eye, those can be parasitic worms. Although very difficult to test for, most people get regular blood work, and here's a test that you can likely know more than your doctor does and be able to possibly identify parasites if these two markers are elevated, if either one of them are. So a CBC is called a complete blood cell count. It's one of the most common tests run with routine blood work. You have 5 different types of white blood cells. You have neutrophils, lymphocytes, monocytes, eosinophils, and basophils. Each one of those types of white blood cells should only make up a certain percentage of the total white blood cell count. Now, 2 of the ones that are not very predominant because they deal with allergy responses, and we really shouldn't have to deal with allergies a lot. We should have a very low allergy response in our body. Those 2 are called eosinophils and basophils. And eosinophils should not make up more than 3% of the total white blood cell count. Basophils should be like 0 to 1%. If you see an elevation in either one of these, it means you have an elevated histamine allergy type response, and parasites drive those things more than anything else. So it's not a direct marker, like, hey, if you have these things, you have parasites, but most of the time you will. And on the other side of that, just because you're negative for these doesn't mean you don't have parasites. These are just often for intestinal worms, intestinal type parasites. A patient story I'm going to go over with in a minute here. The woman had these things, I think it was like 12 or 15% eosinophils. Her doctors missed it. I said, I think you have parasites. You'll see her story. It's amazing. Her eosinophils dropped dramatically after we cleared these things from her system. All right, so there are hundreds of different types of parasites. They can be as long as a 40-foot tapeworm. They can be as small as a red blood cell. It's important to take a comprehensive approach, not going after just specific types, but something that's going to eliminate all ends of the spectrum. They live by stealing your life force, eating your nutrients, literally eating your organs, driving inflammation, and causing disease. Parasites release powerful chemicals that influence your behaviors, your thoughts, your feelings, your urges. Those food cravings we talked about before, it's not just that you're just a weak person, you can't get it together. Oftentimes the bacteria, the parasites, the candida, or the fungal issues, the mold problems, those are what cause the cravings. Particularly parasites want junk food. They're going to crave sugar and processed foods, and when you eat those, you just perpetuate their life cycles. Lastly here, so the waste from parasites contributes to your body's toxic load, and it places increased stress on your body's drainage pathways, like your lymphatic system, your liver, your kidneys, your skin, your digestive system. Parasites eat our food, they eat our body, then they process that, and then they eliminate waste. When they eliminate that, where do you think that waste has to go? It literally has to be processed by our body. So your body's own detox pathways that are likely already under functioning now are even further overburdened by the presence of parasites. and by the waste from parasites in your body. So we're going to look at a case study here. I'm going to take a quick sip of water. Excuse my sinuses here right now. Okay, so this is a patient who I worked with last year. This is from November 2022. She says, and this is on our Google page, you can go check this out. She says, 1.5 years ago, I had issues with my stomach. I could not eat a meal without going to the bathroom. I was having diarrhea 8 times a day. I lost so much weight that I went from 118 pounds down to only 93 pounds, and I couldn't hold down any food. So think about this. This woman loses 25 pounds, can't keep any food in her, liquid diarrhea 8 times a day. She says, I go to see my doctor and other doctors, and they couldn't help me. They kept saying I was fine. So a woman in this state goes into our medical system. They run all these tests. They tell her everything is fine. Go home. There's nothing we can do for you. She says, I knew something was wrong with me, so I kept searching. I found Dr. Cole on Facebook. He's been treating me with my stomach issues. He did a few tests on me, and the great thing is that Dr. Cole goes over all your test results and explains everything in detail. We finally found out what was wrong with me. I have parasites in my body, eating my nutrition and my vitamins. Keep in mind, she's one of the ones, like I said, her stool test was negative for parasites. I saw her blood work, and I said, I really think that these markers point towards that, along with your clinical symptoms, you have a parasite issue. So she says, I thank God for Dr. Cole for taking the time to hear me out and review all my test results. I'm finally recovering. I'm able to eat a meal without going to the bathroom 8 times a day, and my stool is finally normal. Thank God and Dr. Cole. I highly recommend him for anyone having issues. Please reach out to him sincerely. And then we'll just keep her name blacked out here. But I'm going to, I need to minimize this and bring up my screen share again, because I want to make sure that I share the audio for this right now, that it comes through. Because we're going to play a video for her, so share sound. And I hope this plays through on your end here. So that's her story. Watch her video of these parasites. And oh, by the way, if you are squeamish at all, if you don't want to see gross pictures of parasites in people's stool, maybe just listen or turn your screen off, look away for a minute. But here's your warning. You're about to see graphic pictures of parasites. So this is what she sent me. This is not stool. These are parasites that came out in her stool. And she says she passed about 20 of these things. Now, parasites are not like a do one kit and they're all gone type thing. For 6 months, this woman kept eliminating worms and just gross look plaques, biofilms from her body. These things have life cycles, you guys. They migrate from other tissues to the stool to be eliminated. And you can see, I don't know what types of parasites these are. I'm not a parasitologist, but some types of long worms with sucker heads here. And she got rid of, she says, about, I think, 20 of these things. Let's listen to her story.
Today is the 28th, November 28th, and this is all that came out of me. So far, I think there's 20 of them. They're real. They live in your human body and eat all your nutrition. And they can kill you too if you don't get them out of you.
They're real, they live in your body, they eat your nutrition, and they can kill you if it goes on long enough. So what else do parasites look like? Guys, we're almost going to be at the end, and we'll go into the protocols here. A lot of parasites, as you eliminate them, look like digested food. These things break apart once they're killed in your digestion. And so this is an example of like intestinal flukes here. It can look like onion skins or potato skins. They can look like nuts and seeds in your stool. So getting rid of some of those foods and or just being aware, maybe getting rid of them for the time that you're cleansing so that there's no overlap of, is this food or is this a parasite? This is, again, intestinal flukes along with some type of little tapeworms here mixed in with them. These things look like, again, a lot of, I'll show you some individual ones, but tomato skins. Here's one on the right that I passed. So it didn't have a ton of these things, but these little liver flukes here. Sometimes you'll see them in different colors. You can see like a sucker on this one over here. I think these are, if I recall, proglotid eggs. So there can be different sections of tapeworms that look like eggs. These things then break out and emerge their own individual parasites. So all of these will become individual parasites inside of a person. Some types of worms can lay hundreds of thousands of eggs per month. This is something that I actually passed going through the protocols we'll be discussing with you here. So there are things you can do to even amplify these protocols. I'll go over the supplements that I was taking, but at the time I passed this, I had also been doing fasting, and I did a coffee enema. So I'm going to go over where you can access these trainings here on how to do these things at the end. But it's not just only about taking supplements. There are other things you can do to augment your body's defenses and elimination of parasites. Fasting is excellent for that. In my own journey before, you saw I had all that weight loss and was very sick. Not only did I go through protocols to regain my health again, as far as eliminating parasites, fasting was a big part of that parasite elimination process for me. And then as you're doing some of the fasting and you're killing them off, enemas can just help to flush those things out further. You might not always see worms coming out. There can be a lot of debris. I call these things biofilms or plaques. So parasites, bacteria, they create these films over them in your body, especially in your intestines. These films create a nice little ecosystem where they can thrive and survive and be shielded from your immune system. And the products that we take don't just kill the parasites, they kind of like rip apart a lot of these biofilms, and then you can pass all these things out. So, in summary, guys, many of the people that I work with are eating healthy, they take vitamins and supplements, they exercise, but they still don't feel well. And that's because if there's a missing part, there's something beneath the surface, a pathogen that's attacking your body, draining your energy, driving inflammation, then you can be eating a good diet, you can be trying to make positive changes, but you're only going to feel minimal changes at best. Or, it might be just an extremely long road. I know there are people like who I really resonate with, like Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, who wrote an awesome book called The GAPS Diet. And her plan is if you just follow the GAPS protocol and reduce elimination, eventually you'll get your body so healthy parasites won't want to live there, but it can be like a 1 to 2 year type process. And that's great. We should be eating a good diet, but I definitely think there are things we can do to faster eliminate these things, speed up progress, and kick these things out of your body. So my protocols that I use are from a company called Cellcore Biosciences. If you've never heard of Cellcore, they are my favorite supplement company. I use them exclusively with all of my clients. I take their products daily and their parasite products monthly myself. And Cellcore is not like most supplement companies out there. They don't have a wide lineup of products. They don't have tons of vitamins like zinc and A and vitamin C and all the B vitamins. They're not concerned about just providing tons of nutrients to your body. They only have 20 products, and they're concerned about being the best in 3 key areas, which they are. They are unparalleled in supporting your body's cellular energy, supporting your body's detox and drainage pathways, and then going after pathogens like parasites. So why are those 3 things important? Ultimately, you're only as healthy as your body's cells. You have these little things in your cells called mitochondria. They're little organelles, and those mitochondria charge and energize your cells. If you're sick, if you are chronically ill, you don't have the energy to get through your day, let alone to heal. So Cellcore focuses on improving that cellular energy and health. The second thing is that your body has these natural detox pathways, your liver, your lymphatic system, your kidneys, your colon, your skin. I don't believe in taking cleanse protocols and flushes and detox kits. Rather, I align with Cellcore. My voice is getting a little raspy here. I align with Cellcore, who believes in supporting your body's own natural detox and drainage pathways. So support your natural elimination pathways. And then the third thing, which is kind of why Cellcore was started, the doctors who formed this company worked with a lot of tough Lyme disease cases, particularly the one doctor's wife was very sick with Lyme disease for a long time. And so these protocols are for those people. Heavy metal cases, mold, parasites, Lyme disease. The tough cases use Cellcore. Now, Cellcore has this process called the Roadmap to Health. And this is a multi-phase system that's designed to support those 3 areas, going deeper and deeper into your body, supporting cellular energy, supporting your drainage pathways, clearing out your gut from pathogens and supporting your immune system, then clearing out your whole body from pathogens, going outside of the gut, supporting systemic detox, heavy metals, glyphosates, environmental toxins, and then deeper immune support for like tick, parasites, mold type cases. So this roadmap to health is designed by Cellcore. It's something I take all my clients through, and not everybody has to start at phase one, like depending on where a person's at. I might start them right into the guts, or if they need more energy support, start here. But it's a comprehensive system that anybody can start with, and this is called foundational medicine. What do I mean by foundational medicine? My wife, the best example I can give you is my wife and I bought a home where I'm right now, where I run my virtual practice from. We bought it in November 2021. And we liked the place because it was private properties. It's in a town that we really like, but the house was really neglected and let go. My dad is a home inspector, so he did our inspection. He actually cautioned us against buying it because everything that could be wrong with a house that you would find in an inspection report was wrong with our house. The previous owners were very elderly. They had the place in disrepair and neglect, so it needed a new roof. It had massive water damage, mold, just mildew all throughout the home. They had a cat that ruined a lot of things here. It had massive termite damage. It needed a new septic tank. Lots of rain came in the basement, so we had to put an entire perimeter French drain in. It had no air conditioning. We literally had to rip the house down to the studs in almost every room, replace a lot of those studs from the termite damage, and then literally rebuild it back up again. So we could not have bought this home and then just moved in here and started painting walls or put like a kitchen floor in like we just did here. We literally had to rip it down to the foundation and then build it back up again and build a home that we love, our dream home now, something that we're able to really enjoy and be here for years to come. That's what Cellcore is. Cellcore is not about the superficial things. It's not about, hey, take this for thyroid support if you have low thyroid, or take this for if you have diabetes symptoms. It's let's get the foundational things right first. Let's energize your cells. Let's support your body's ability to cleanse and detox itself. And let's go after anything that could be attacking your body and making you sick. The pathogens, the parasites. So when you do those things, miraculously, your body comes to life, and a lot of things that are symptoms that you deal with begin to get better on their own without any further effort. Now, I'm not saying take this, to be clear, and this is all you have to do. You have to be sleeping good, eating good, having good lifestyle and protocols that you follow. All that's very important. But this goes into the foundational supplement protocols that I found to be most successful. Now, Cellcore does have these monthly kits outside of their roadmap to health that you can do for specific endeavors, specific emphasis. One of these kits is their Parasite Kit. Now, they have like a Candida kit. They have a mold and mycotoxin kit. They have like an H. pylori stomach kit. Depending on what you're dealing with, that kit might be the most appropriate for you in addition to the roadmap to health. But one of the ones that I use most often, because I just view that if you clear the parasites, so many other things will get better on their own, is their Para Kit. So this Para Kit is made up of 4 products here. Para 1 is a sticky gel seed called Mimosa pudica seed that literally goes through your gut like a sponge, rips apart biofilms, physically traps parasites, kills them, and eliminates them. Para 2 is a synergistic blend of herbs that, yes, kill parasites, but also confers good benefits to your digestive system. So anyone on both ends of the spectrum, from constipation to like loose stools and diarrhea, the herbs in here don't just kill the parasites, they lend good health benefits to the digestive system to correct those issues. Para 3 is a liquid, the first 2 are capsules. Para 3 is a liquid that's more for systemic parasites. So these first 2 are mostly digestive and gut-based ones, which is where the majority of parasites reside. But a lot of them do live outside of the gut too. Para 3 is for those ones. And then the biotoxin binder, we never want to go after parasites without trapping the toxins released by them. So biotoxin binder is a systemic carbon-based binder that will trap heavy metals, and particularly the like ammonia from mold and bacteria, the toxins released by dead and dying parasites. We want to always trap and make sure we are eliminating the parasites as we kill them. Now, one thing I didn't put on this slide that I will talk about too, we'll talk about how to get started with Cellcore. They have an optional product called Bowel Mover. It used to be part of this kit. They removed it recently and just added it as an option. If you move your bowels already normally once or twice a day, that's great. You do not have to buy the bowel mover product. But if you are constipated, you do not want to go killing parasites until you get that drainage pathway, your colon, working well. So in that case, if you're constipated, you would also buy their bowel mover product, and you would make sure that you take that every day that you're doing the parasite cleanses, because you want to be getting that concentration gradient moving and getting things flowing out of the colon. So this is the Para Kit. I'm going to go over a resource for how you can take these things according to the schedules that I recommend. There's 2 ways to do this. The first is when you first get started, you get this kit, and there's a beginner dosage schedule that you take every day for 1 month. That's what all my clients do. You'll likely get rid of parasites just by doing that. If they're worms, you'll see them. If there are smaller things, they might be self-digested. You may not see them all the time, but you'll take it at the beginner dose every day. After doing that for 1 month, we move into what's called a full moon protocol. Now, the full moon protocol involves the same parasite products, but now we high dose them for the days surrounding a full moon, which is the best opportunity to eliminate these things. So we start doubling or tripling up on the dose, anywhere from 3 to 5 to sometimes, as you're more advanced, 7 days around every month's full moon. And you'll do a full moon cleanse for 6 to 12 months, every month for 6 to 12 months. So I have a course I've created, a Facebook group. Let me read this first. This is from Lisa. Lisa said, I did the 4-4-4 twice yesterday. That's the way you can take these products and high dose them. And I passed the largest liver flukes yet. I can't believe these things were stuck in my gallbladder. I literally have no more pain. Even though I've been eating healthy for years now, I could never lose a pound. Now the weight's coming off with 0 effort. These products are amazing. I have more energy than I did as a kid. I know I must sound like I sell these products, but I don't. I'm just so incredibly blessed to have found the answers to my health issues and for my son who has PANS. So you guys, I've created a private Facebook group to share these protocols with. It's called Dr. Cole's Parasite Protocols Group. I will, however you're watching this replay, likely on YouTube, I will put the link to this group in the section beneath the video, the comment section, wherever. Look for the link to this group. You can also just type it in, facebook.com/groups/Dr. Cole Parasite Protocols. So again, wherever this replay will be posted, I will put it beneath the video there. And if I just pop out of here real quick and take you inside of the group, this is what it looks like. And you're going to want to go first to the featured section here. I want to show you 2 things in here. In the featured section, the first video is the welcome video on how to get started. So in order to do these protocols and products, you will have to create a Cellcore account. You have to do this 1 time. If I click this here, it'll bring you up to my page I've created with instructions on how to do just that, how to create your account. Give it a minute here. I have just a lot of bandwidth being used because I'm recording and on Zoom. So this is the page here. A video will load here eventually. Yep, about the roadmap to health and Cellcore. But you follow these steps here. It says follow the steps below to get started. You click on this, you go to cellcore.com. At the top of the website, you click register. On the next page, you click register as a customer. Down here, it says use the patient direct code. Here is that code. Copy and paste it onto their portal. You put the code here. Forget my phone. You enter your name, email, and password. You do this 1 time, and then you click sign up, and then you can log into Cellcore and order your Para Kit. Now, once you have your Para Kit, the next video under featured inside the group is the Cellcore Para Kit dosing protocols. So in here it's a 17-minute long video where I go over how to start with your 1 month of the beginner protocols, and then after you graduated that, how to do the monthly full moon protocols and the dosing for how you can begin increasing that in the days surrounding a full moon. Now, if you go up here to the files section, I have some files about Cellcore, the roadmap to health explanation, the drainage funnel. But the 2 you're probably going to be most interested in is the daily dosage schedule. So let's click this and I'll download it here with you guys on the screen. Let's open this up right now. So this is the daily dosage schedule for how to take these products. It might be a little small on your screen right now. You can make this bigger when you are downloading this, but it tells you how to take the Para 1 and the Para 2, the Para 3 and the biotoxin binder, and you'll take this schedule every day for 1 month. After that point, if we go back to the files and you're ready to now do your full moon protocols, let's download this here. And I'll open this up in just a second. All right, so now you've done 1 month of the products. You're ready to start doing the full moon protocols. Come on, open up here. I see it on the left. I don't know why it's not. Here we go. All right, so my computer is running a little bit slow right now, you guys. There we go. All right, so here you'll see beginner. Let me hide my screen controls here. You'll see beginner, intermediate, and advanced doses. This is where you can double or triple up, or sometimes I'll even go higher, quadruple some of these doses now that I'm over a year into these protocols. And you would do this in the days surrounding a full moon, because as the moon is brightest and our melatonin levels are lowest, that's when parasites are most active in the body. They move around the most, and it's the best monthly opportunity to eliminate them. So the full moon kit will explain that, not just dosage wise, but how you can do a 3, a 5, or a 7-day full moon. You start off with the 3 days, and then as you go each month, as you feel that you're able to, you can increase your dosage of how to take these things. So again, you guys, all the instructions are inside the Facebook group here. I've created this group as a resource where I'm going to just start sharing awesome content that can benefit you guys. You can start taking action on these things. I don't know how often I'll be in here. I plan on doing Facebook Lives, adding more content to it with some regularity. So we can interact here. If you have questions, you can post them in this group. But I want to start growing this as a way to share protocols that you can begin doing these things on your own and get products that can make a big difference in your life. So again, thank you for watching. I'm going to end this here right now. I will post the link to this beneath this video. And I appreciate you being here today. I hope this was a big value and impact in your health and in your life. So thanks a lot. I will see you in the next training video. Bye.